$552. 1,435. Same colitis, same veteran, 11 months apart. Nothing about him got dramatically worse in between. His gastroenterologist changed one thing, and that one thing is written into the rating criteria in a way almost nobody notices. There's also 100% tier here that people badly misread, and I'll come to it.
Erica here. Diagnostic code 7323 is ulcerative colitis, and like a lot of codes we've looked at lately, it contains no percentages of its own. It says rate as Crohn's disease or undifferentiated form of inflammatory bowel disease, which is code 7326.
Leo joining you, and 7326 is where it gets interesting because the tiers aren't built the way people expect. Each one names a level of treatment, not just a level of suffering.
Say that more plainly because it's the whole episode.
The 30% tier says managed with oral and topical agents other than immunosuppressants or other biologic agents. The 60% tier says managed on an outpatient basis with immunosuppressants or other biologic agents. The drug class is written into the criterion.
Lewis, so the day your gastroenterologist moves you onto a biologic, you've crossed a line that the rating schedule already drew.
You have, and I want to be careful about how that sounds, because I'm not telling anybody to chase a drug for a percentage. Nobody starts a biologic lightly, and nobody should. What I'm telling you is that if your treatment has already escalated, your rating probably should have moved with it, and it almost certainly didn't on its own.
Because nothing in the system watches your prescriptions and files on your behalf.
Nothing does. A rating sits exactly where it was put until somebody asks for it to be looked at again.
So before we go further, ask yourself this. Has your colitis treatment changed since the day you were rated? Because if the answer is yes, and nobody filed anything, there's a good chance you've been paid at the wrong tier for a while. Let me pause for just a second because this genuinely helps. If you are getting value here, hit that like button, then subscribe and ring the bell. It costs you nothing, and it is the single biggest thing that keeps these videos coming. Let's read all 4 rungs, because the shape of them explains why so many people sit one tier low.
Professor Duran's at the desk, and I asked for her because these criteria are written as combinations, and people tend to read them as menus.
That distinction matters enormously, so let me read them as written. 10% is minimal to mild symptomatic inflammatory bowel disease that is managed with oral or topical agents other than immunosuppressants or other biologic agents, and is characterized by recurrent abdominal pain with 3 or less daily episodes of diarrhea and no signs of systemic toxicity. 30% is mild to moderate disease, the same drug classes, recurrent abdominal pain with 3 or less daily episodes, and minimal signs of toxicity such as fever, tachycardia, or anemia.
So 10 and 30 share a drug class and an episode count. What separates them?
Toxicity. 10% says no signs of systemic toxicity. 30 says minimal signs, and it names them fever, tachycardia, anemia. A veteran running low hemoglobin on his labs is describing the 30% rung whether or not anyone said the word.
Duran, and 60.
Moderate inflammatory bowel disease managed on an outpatient basis with immunosuppressants or other biologic agents, characterized by recurrent abdominal pain, 4 to 5 daily episodes of diarrhea, and intermittent signs of toxicity.
Read me the money across that jump.
$552.47 at 30, $1,435.02 at 60, $882.55 a month between them.
That's the largest single step we've looked at in this whole run of episodes.
And it is a combination, which is the trap. The drug class alone does not carry you there. You need the drug class and the episode count and the intermittent toxicity together.
Thank you, Duran. Combination rather than menu is the sentence I'd want on a sticky note.
Let's sit on that 60% rung because it's where most of the money in this code lives and where most of the confusion does too.
Erica, name the drugs, because people don't always know which bucket theirs is in.
I'll name the classes rather than brands, because brands change. An immunosuppressant is something like azathioprine or methotrexate. A biologic is an infused or injected antibody therapy, the anti-TNF class, and the newer ones. If your treatment is a tablet you collect from a pharmacy shelf, you're almost certainly in the oral and topical bucket. If it's something you inject at home or sit in a chair for, you're in the other one.
And that second picture is a very memorable afternoon, which is why people can usually date it precisely.
Which matters, because an effective date runs from when you ask, not from when the drug started. So the sooner somebody realizes, the less they leave behind.
But say the hard half too.
The hard half is that the drug class on its own is not enough. You also need recurrent abdominal pain with 4 to 5 daily episodes of diarrhea and intermittent signs of toxicity. A veteran whose biologic is working beautifully, 2 episodes a day, no fevers, normal bloods, does not meet 60%, and that's the schedule behaving sensibly rather than cruelly.
So the honest question isn't what am I taking? It's what am I taking and how am I doing on it?
Leo, that's exactly it. And the answer to the second half changes over time, which is why this is a code worth revisiting rather than filing once and forgetting. There's a requirement sitting underneath all 4 rungs, and it stops some claims before the tears ever matter.
Duran's back with us for this one because it's the sort of line people skim.
The code requires that diagnoses under it be confirmed by endoscopy or radiologic studies, not suspected, not reported, confirmed by one of those 2 methods.
Duran, is that a high bar in practice?
Clinically, almost nobody carries an ulcerative colitis diagnosis without having had a colonoscopy, because that is how it is diagnosed. Administratively, it is a different question because the report lives with the gastroenterology service and does not necessarily travel to the claims file.
So the study exists, it's just somewhere else.
Frequently, yes, and it is worth retrieving deliberately rather than assuming, because a ratter who cannot see confirmation is looking at an unestablished diagnosis regardless of how long you have been treated for it.
And once it's in, it's in. You're not repeating a colonoscopy to keep a rating.
Correct. The confirmation establishes the disease. The tiers then move with your treatment and your symptoms.
Thanks, Duran. The study exists, it's just filed somewhere else, is a very specific and very fixable problem.
I promise the 100% tier, and it's the one people misread most often in this code.
Read it slowly because the word "and" appears 3 times.
Severe inflammatory bowel disease that is unresponsive to treatment and requires hospitalization at least once per year, and results in either an inability to work or is characterized by recurrent abdominal pain associated with at least 2 of 4 listed findings.
Name the 4.
6 or more episodes per day of diarrhea, 6 or more episodes per day of rectal bleeding, recurrent episodes of rectal incontinence, and recurrent abdominal distension.
Erica, so where does the misreading happen?
On the first clause, unresponsive to treatment is not the same as still symptomatic on treatment. Plenty of people have real, difficult colitis that responds partially, and partially responding is exactly what the 60% rung describes. Unresponsive means the treatment isn't working.
And the yearly hospitalization is a hard fact rather than a judgment call. Either there were admissions or there weren't, which raises the real question. Does the file show the disease you're actually living with?
Which makes this tier unusually checkable in both directions. If you've been admitted every year and nothing is holding the disease, you should be looking hard at this rung. If you haven't been admitted at all, 60 is the ceiling you're arguing for.
Leo, and that's a kinder thing to know early than to discover in a decision letter.
So let's put it in the order somebody would actually do it this week.
First, the endoscopy report. Ring the gastroenterology service, ask for the colonoscopy report, and make sure it reaches the claims file. That's the foundation, and nothing else stands without it.
Second, date your treatment change. If you moved onto an immunosuppressant or a biologic, find roughly when. The prescription record has it even if you don't.
Lewis, and third is the counting, which is the part people wave at.
Count daily episodes over a week and write the number down. 3 or less and 4 to 5 are different rungs, so the difference between saying a lot and saying 4 is $800 a month.
And ask for the toxicity markers by name at your next appointment: temperature, pulse, and a full blood count for anemia. Those 3 are the named signs in the criteria, and they're routine tests, not special favors.
So that's the counting done.
Now the honest part, because I've described a bigger claim than a lot of people will get. If you're on a tablet, going twice a day, and your bloods are clean, then 10 or 30% is the correct answer, and it isn't a slight 1/3 of well-controlled disease, which is what everybody involved actually wants. This code doesn't reward being ill. It tracks how hard the illness is to hold down.
And nobody should be reaching for a stronger drug to reach a higher tier. That would be a genuinely bad trade, and no rating is worth it.
Agreed, completely. So here's what I'd actually do. If your treatment escalated and your rating didn't, gather the endoscopy report and the prescription date and file for an increase. That's the smart play, because you're not arguing that you got sicker, you're showing that the record stopped keeping up.
That's a much easier case to make than most.
Here's the sentence to keep. This code moves when your treatment moves, and nobody files that for you. Subscribing is free and costs 1 tap, and it puts the next one of these in front of a veteran whose prescription changed 2 years ago. And if you know somebody with colitis who started a biologic and never told the VA, send them this. That's $882 a month sitting in a prescription record. I'll go first. I'd have assumed a rating updates itself, so tell me. Has your colitis treatment changed since the day you were rated? Pull the report, date the change, then file. Take care of yourselves, and go easy this week.